I'm big on a feedback loop, have a tight feedback loop.
Right.
Because like every time you do something, there's going to be an equal opposite reaction. So what's that reaction? How can you take those data points and how can you make a better educated decision on what to do?
Welcome to another episode of the Revenue Reimagined podcast. We are all going to sit here and rub our chin in honor of Dale. We are stoked. We have a very special guest with us today. We have Marcus Chan, who is the president and founder of Venly Consulting and the author of Six Figure Sales Secrets, and probably the best person on LinkedIn with video that I've seen in a while. Marcus, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, what's up, gentlemen? I'm pumped to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, you must only be talking to me because Dale's not a gentleman, but we are pumped to have you here.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for joining. We'll start off quickly. If you weren't in sales or you didn't run sales groups, what other GTM function would you run and why?
You know, that's an interesting question. I've never been asked that before, but I probably would go into the operations side of the business. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm saying this specifically is because I used to run ops in the past as well. And I think because of that, it gave me a better understanding of how to sell, not just to to operations people, but also understood the business better. So I can have better business conversations, etc. But on top of that, I like to build and fix things. And when you're in operations, basically all you do. You basically always just finding constraints, fixing constraints. Which is, it's fun to do. And I think I naturally lean towards that. And that's actually why I'm probably more detail oriented. I've always heard from prospects that I'm one of the most detail oriented salespeople they've ever worked with because I think of the operational background. Yeah. So I think for me, I think it'd be a pretty easy answer as I think about it.
So you and Adam, you RevOps.
I was just gonna say you and I are very much alike. I geek out on all the RevOps shit, and typically with our clients, I'm the one who's doing all of that. Dale hears the word Salesforce and he like turns off his Slack and doesn't want to talk to anyone.
I'm like, but what can we build here?
Right? How can we automate this? Great minds think alike.
Easier, more efficient.
So, but a lot of startups and a lot of founders, so early stage startups is our ICP. There goes Dale, and specifically seed to Series B. And we speak to a lot of founders who don't have big ops teams, right? They arguably don't have anyone in RevOps. How do they kind of wrap their head around that? Like, what advice would you give them, folks that you've worked with before, where there's no one in RevOps, they don't know, certainly had a program in Salesforce. And their initial reaction is, well, let's just go hire someone offshore and give them Salesforce admin access. Is that the right way to do it?
Well, I think it's a dangerous gamble, first off, if you were just to do that. Because depending on who you want to bring on, I think first off, number one, if you don't know the answer, you also don't know what to build, what you actually need. You don't know all the parameters of what you actually need to put into place. That's going to be something you're going to want to enjoy and use long-term wise, right? And I think it's important to understand that. So I think number one, you want to hire somebody to help you with it, but it's hiring the right person who's almost like a technical advisor that can help you with actually not just doing what you want them to do, but also provide you insight to what's a better way of doing things. So I'll give you a really simple example. So I'm pretty good at building stuff. It's not my strength by any means. I can create the vision for it, but I still need help with actually implementation and automation, all that stuff. So even for my own business, early on, I'm trying to build everything. And I probably, I have the vision, the actual how, I'll probably more Frankenstein together. Yeah, I'm gluing things together with Zapier and doing all these things, and it would work, but it would also break a lot. Yeah. So then I'm like, okay, what I need to do is I need to be like, I'm not being a good CEO or founder of my business. I need to go and find somebody, vet them properly to do all these things and build it for me. But I don't want an order taker. I don't want someone I can bring and say, hey, just do this, and then they do it, and it still has all these issues because I basically miss seeing some other connection points I might need down the road. So instead, I took my time, brought on a tech advisor to work with me directly. And he not only did he build it out for me, but we actually broke down and took a look future-wise what it should look like. So you can make different recommendations on the best tech stack to have, how to connect it together, and other insight as well. So I think it's having the right person is key, but you don't want to do it yourself, especially if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's the strategy pieces that you're trying to ask for as well. It's like you don't know what you don't know, and I think where Adam and I talk with a lot of founders, they like if you get into Series A, Series B, a lot of it is still gut because they don't have the technical expertise. They're like, I think the pricing should be this. I think our ICP is that. I believe, and a lot of it they're selling to their own network. So, at what stage in the organization do you start bringing in people to help you get out of the pattern or your gut and start getting into the data aspect of it? Is it super early? Is it Series A? Like, where do you feel people should start getting that expertise?
Well, hindsight's always 2020. I think the sooner you can get data for anything, the better it's going to be. And that's just across the board. Even if it's not the best data,
Right?
if you start getting data, regardless of whatever like series of funding you want to raise, like you start with like what are the data points right now that's helped me come to this conclusion.
Yep.
So, for example, whenever I'm thinking about from a mental model perspective, if I make decisions for my own business, instinctually we have a lot of gut feelings. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, right? But I can say, hey, what are the facts I know? If I believe there's a constraint to my business, what are the hard data facts I can look at? Okay, now what's maybe some of the other data points that maybe a little more subjective that I'll build into it? And you want to decide from there as a result. But this is actually why I think it's really important that as a founder, you are hanging with people who have already done what you're trying to do at a bigger level.
Yeah.
Because they're able to see things in advance, like, oh, you're totally botching this, Marcus, or hey, actually, you need to see this. You're not looking like 24 months down the road, or hey, you're only selling to your network, so you actually don't have a cold friendly offer.
Yeah,
like you're only good at selling people that already know, like, and trust you. So your sales motion, it may only be good for that type of sales cycle, but a lot for cold, you're going to struggle.
Mm-hmm. And I think you said the right thing. Like a lot of people we talk to, like, well, I don't know what the data is, or they'll say the data and it's wrong. It's like, that's fine. Like the data, like it's a point in time, and it's like,
correct.
And you can manipulate data as much as you can manipulate your gut. So you kind of have to have it in both sections.
100%. You definitely need a combination of both, because the data only tells you part of the story. Because if you have the data wrong, then you might come to the wrong conclusion if your gut's telling you something different.
Yep.
100%. So Marcus, you work with a lot of sellers, right? Like you wrote a book, for crying out loud. Like, and people take that advice and they go sell and hopefully sell really good. And I've seen your testimonials. I actually know people that you've worked with. Shout out to Reed, who have been wildly successful following your methodologies. But when you look at the economy today, when you look at revenue today, shit that worked before doesn't work now. How are you challenging people, and even yourself in your own business, to kind of think outside of the box and, we'll use a pun here, reimagine revenue, to adapt to the ever-changing environment?
Yeah. So I think that's the difference between learning tactics versus learning strategies.
Mm.
And I think a lot of salespeople chase tactics without realizing it. Hey, say this one-liner, write an email this way, say this on a call to try to get them to close. Those are just tactics. When you learn strategies land the test of time. That's just the reality. Now, how you implement the strategy may shift, but the psychology behind it never really changes. And, for those who are watching this live, we're not young guys, we've been around the block for a little bit, right? So we had to sell through some tough times.
Yeah.
Like we had to sell through the last recession, maybe before that. So we saw the rise and fall of what it's like to sell in good and bad times.
Yep.
And I think a lot of salespeople, a lot of sellers today, if they started selling the last, say, 10 years, they're kind of like, whoa, this is hard.
Yeah.
This is hard, because now they're trying to sell into, I don't think it's considered a bear market, depending on who we would talk to, but like the economy is tougher.
Yeah.
So like budgets are tightening up. There's different rules getting put in place in companies where certain thresholds can't get approved for certain dollar amounts, right? People are not optimistic. So as a result, it's harder to sell.
Yep.
But if you've been selling since at least 2007, 2008, you know that was a more scary time.
It's for some of those older people, like the .com bust and
.com bust, exactly.
And they're all like, it's all like peaks and valleys, right? And so
100%.
It's interesting. You're talking about the strategy aspect of it versus the like these tactics. Like, what's the easy button? I think Adam's got one in his back that he tries to hit once in a while. But like,
I don't have an easy button.
And it's the pendulum swing, right? Like, what's going to happen is we're going to pendulum way the other way, and then we're going to figure out like, okay, there's something other in the middle. But I think about this time similar to the .com bust, where I was like, there's no way people are going to go back into this realm and get into a place where they're not doing due diligence. They're not executing strategy, but we got back into it. And then, nothing about automation, but you had a lot of automation and people sending out blast emails. And I blame marketing most of the time. Like usually if something's really good, marketing will destroy it. But, I think we go through that.
Making all sorts of friends on this show.
Yeah.
I think we go through the pendulum pieces.
You're 100% right. And that's where it's like, when you think about sales at its core, it's learning how to influence people, change behaviors, and get people to move and take action and move people because you're working with human beings. So if you understand that to be true, you're going to learn strategies that are based off human psychology, not tactics, right? So I'll give you a really, really simple example. So I have a really simple voicemail script that I use and I teach. The psychology behind it is why it works. But I teach the tactics so people can actually implement the tactic. And what people get really stuck on is like, oh, but I said this script and it didn't work.
But your tone was wrong. Everything was wrong.
The tone was wrong.
I could get on the phone and say, hey, Marcus, how are you? Hey, Marcus, how are you? Hey, Marcus, how are you? Like, depending on what, to your point, the whole strategy of how you're saying it, you're going to get a different
100%.
Reaction to every single one of those.
100%. And that's where, I think people get really stuck. They're like, oh, like I think even like if like a go-to-market function, like, some people want to go for like pure LinkedIn, right? Like, oh, is LinkedIn now the thing we should do right now? Like, should we do this?
Nothing
is
else.
The best strategy?
Just go DM people and do nothing else and watch your sales skyrocket.
And what they're misunderstanding is this timeless strategy of finding where your prospects hang out and reaching them with relevant messaging. That hasn't changed. Whether it has been the telephone, whether it has been the fax machine, whether it has been the Telegram, whether it has been email or social, whether it's Twitter or X now, it hasn't changed. It's a tactic of what you're delivering and how you're doing it that determines your end result. But you need to understand the strategy behind it. When you understand the strategy, then you can take those mental models and you apply it to other parts of the business. This is why you see some businesses are massively successful because they look at what someone has done in one market as a strategy and they're like, let me try it in like the European market now. And they crush it.
But why is it so hard for people to do this? Because like I have a client now, and your use case that you just said is very true. They can't understand why we can't just go DM a bunch of people on LinkedIn. I mean, P.S. your client doesn't live on LinkedIn. I mean, that's reason number one. Right. If you're not meeting people where they are, like people say cold calling is dead. There are industries where email is dead and cold calling will book you meetings all day long. And vice versa. But we get in this echo chamber that's known as LinkedIn of, oh my God, like cold calling's dead and don't ever cold call someone, but it works. Why are people so reluctant in your mind to look at the broader picture of strategy and they get so hung up on the fucking tactics?
Well, so I think it's a couple of reasons. I think number one of the reasons is if someone has a belief in their mind, true or false, they will find any data point they find to justify that belief. So, for example, if they're struggling with cold calling, they go on LinkedIn and hear a bunch of people saying it's dead. They're like, I knew it.
I'm right. Yes.
Right.
It's not just me. I don't just suck.
Right. It's like the reality is like data is flawed in that way because you can find the opposite opinion. If you look for something else like that is working, you'll find that too. Yeah. It's kind of like I can't remember what the effect is called. It's a psychological effect, but it's like if you want to go buy a white white Toyota Camry, now
all you see is white Camry everywhere.
Yeah. Right. So you start.
You posted about that at one point, I think, because I remember talking 100%. About this.
So we have that almost like we create the echo chamber, right? That's the first piece by ourselves, not realizing we curate it for ourselves. The second point is, in order for you to make a shift mentally to like a new way of thinking, you have to have some sort of critical thinking skills. And I find, generally speaking, most people read things as binary, black or white, yes or no. And that's just not the case. Like, it's like, okay, if this strategy worked in, say, in the US, will it work in Europe? Hopefully. But the question is, what do we need to tweak to make it fit in Europe? And Europe's pretty expansive. There's many countries, many different cultures. What can we adjust to make it fit? The strategy makes sense of what they did, but how do we adjust it now and apply critical thinking skills to make it work somewhere else? And I think the mistake a lot of people make is they don't apply critical thinking skills. They try to copy and paste. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
Ever feel like keeping your CRM updated with call notes is a nightmare? You're not alone. Most sales leaders would rate their CRM hygiene a 4 out of 10. Badly maintained CRMs lead to inaccurate data, missed opportunities, and a messy sales pipeline. Not ideal, right? Introducing Attention, your sales rep's personal Iron Man suit. It transforms CRM upkeep, automating it with AI, and freeing your reps to sell, not enter data. Attention fills your CRM with a single click, drafts custom follow-ups, and gives real-time assistance. Isn't it time your CRM worked for you? Ready to upgrade your sales? Visit www.attention.tech.
Yeah, and you have to be okay with it not working. Like, you have to be okay with the change. Like, and people do this in segments as well, right? Okay, we sell the mid-market. Well, if we just take the same mid-market approach and sell up market, we'll make more money. Average deal size will go up. But then they don't realize the unit economics works is different as well. Like, it may take you longer. You have bigger decision makers. You may have to. So they don't think through like customer acquisition costs. They don't understand an LTV. They're like, so people are making decisions based on flawed gut feelings sometimes, and not really looking at the data and understanding if I'm going to go into 2 segments or I'm going to go into 2 regions. Even if you have a segment within a region, you probably have 2 different funnels. Yes, you can have a baseline of here's the ICP, here's the buying persona, here's your value proposition, but just be willing to be able to tweak it 2 months down the road.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I picture like if you're going to go after like a new market, like maybe you work really well on market A and then market B, you have all these chains. It's almost like you have a spear that's kind of sharper in the end. You're going to throw it, you might hit some things, maybe get some animals, who knows? But then you're going to learn, oh man, these are like way bigger animals than expected, so I need a bigger spear, or I need a sharper spear. So you start to sharpen the spear. And then over time you start refining, like, actually, the spear doesn't even work anymore. We need a bow and arrow. They're way too fast. And you're going to start refining over time. That's where I'm big on a feedback loop, have a tight feedback loop.
Right.
Because like every time you do something, there's going to be an equal opposite reaction. So what's that reaction? How can you take those data points and how can you make a better educated decision on what to do? And it's all about like weighing your risk, right? So it's not like 100% is going to work for sure. It's like, okay, how can I reduce my risk of it not happening, not working the way I want it to work? How can I increase my upside a little more? How can I decrease my downside? You start having data, you make educated bets based off that.
So you make it sound so simple, right?
Like it's so easy. I mean, it's so easy.
If it was so easy, we'd all be unemployed.
That's true,
because people would just figure it out. But the fact is, and you hit it on the head, right? Like, we are predisposed to think what we want. Like, and even if you tie it to personal, like I have a friend who's going through a divorce and like everything his wife does like annoys the shit out of him. Why? Because in his mind, everything she does is going to annoy the shit out of me. Where the average person, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. But I think that you have to, and it takes a special skill, if you will, to step back from your predisposed notions and to look at things objectively and be like, wait a minute, like, I am predisposed to thinking this because this is what I want this outcome to be, versus let's take a step back and look at what I can or should be doing to try to derive a different outcome. It's something Dale and I talk about all the time. Like, Dale always thinks that he is right. When we step back, we realize that he's wrong, and it goes much better for our clients. In that sense.
Well, and I think about human beings, we make decisions based on what we justify as reasonable, not rational.
Yeah.
Right?
And we
That's
don't
what
put
ends up happening every time.
we don't put ourselves in the other person's shoes a lot, right? Because
Correct.
back to what you were saying on the rational side of it, like Adam might think he's right, but he's probably not, right? So if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, you have a different perspective of things.
Correct.
And I think I think psychology and mindset is a big part of this whole thing. Like, if you think you're always right, if you think you're going to be right, you're probably wrong, and you're missing blind spots. And I think that's one of the reasons why Adam and I started collaborating together, because even in the same world, if you're successful, you still have blind spots. And I think
100%.
customers and founders have a lot of blind spots. They need help, like just recognizing where those blind spots are, not listening to the echo chambers that even their VCs or people that are funding, or like some of the advisors they have. And you don't want to get too many people in the mix, because then you can't decipher what's right or wrong and different. This is where the gut comes in. But I think you have to have like sometimes opposing viewpoints. That's why you see famous people, athletes, all these people, they don't want yes people in their circle, because if you end up getting yes people in your circle, you get like Antonio Brown, right? And like, who the heck knows what's happening with that dude?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is why you take a look at, you know, someone like LeBron James, right? And how much he invests in having external staff just to coach and guide him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For a reason.
Yeah.
And he wants to be challenged, right? You know, when you read any of Tim Grover's books, right? He talks about, you know, coaching Kobe and Michael Jordan. It's the same thing. And he'll challenge them for a reason, because even though these guys are some of the best in the game, right?
Yep.
They know they still need to be challenged. They need external like viewpoints that's going to help them become a better version of themselves.
Yeah.
It's the same for sales pros and arguably sales leaders, right? Like I've been saying for a long time that I waited way too long. No, I've never said that. I've waited way too long to have a coach. But once I finally got one, you know, it leveled up my game. And the reason isn't because my coach tells me, "Oh, Adam, you're doing a great job." The reason is because my coach says, "Do this differently. Think this way. Challenge yourself." Like, yeah, that was good, but that wasn't great. You want to do great? Do that. And I think, you know, when you talk about like LeBron and MJ and Kobe, like it's exactly that. They might be at the top of their game, but how do they keep getting better?
Right. Yeah.
100%.
100%. So, Marcus, one of the things we like to do at Revenue Reimagined is get back to the audience. You were grateful and gracious enough to provide something to the audience. Tell them what you're giving.
Cool, man. So the first 10 people who listen to this and send me a message on LinkedIn,
10 people,
you know, with the name of this podcast, and say, "Hey, please send me your book. I'll send you my Wall Street Journal best-selling book for free. I'll get you the ebook ASAP once you send me that DM." First 10 people to do that.
I mean, I paid for it, so like the fact that people are getting it for free is pretty huge.
That's right. Maybe I'll hook you up too.
Listen, it's funny
He
you
only
say
reads
that.
with pictures. Does he?
I do only read. I do only
There
read
are
pictures.
some
but,
diagrams in there.
but the fact is, and I've said this for a long time with what I'll call friends or colleagues. Like if you're selling a product, and I believe this very strongly, it's our job as a sales community, as a community of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, to not ask for it for free. My job isn't to to throw your CAC up; it's to bring it down. And if we want to support you, the best way you could do that is by paying for it. And if you get value by sharing it, not by saying, "Hey, man, you're a buddy. Could I get it for free?" Yeah, right. No, happy to pay for it. Unless it's one of Dale's assets, in which case I'm not happy to pay for it, and I'm going to go steal it out of his Google Drive.
Just hack it later.
I mean, there's a reason I'm the admin. So
yeah, it's true. It's a good thing I have an EA.
Me?
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. All right, let's shift gears. We're going to go into a little bit of rapid fire. Sure. Your answers have to be 10 words or less, or Dale says he's going to cut you off.
I need a buzzer.
You need me to get you a countdown buzzer?
No, I just need like a
beep. All right, here we go. What song would best describe your revenue strategy?
Usher, yeah. Because let's just say yes, baby. Let's go.
I like it.
I love it. And Adam, you can't have 10 words either. Okay, Marcus, if you had a crystal ball, what's one revenue?
Mine is the ABCs.
What's one revenue trend or strategy that's happening right now that's going to be like a mainstay in the next 12 to 18 months? Revenue trend or strategy.
So we see this, it's already happening quite often. But I think it's quite, let me think about it. Less than 10 words. Okay, hold on. High quality communities referring leads.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
Nearbound, go to network.
Exactly. Hey, need to get new software for X. Who do you know?
Yep.
What does that mean? What does that mean for traditional outbound? I know we're in quick fire, but what is traditional outbound dead?
No, I mean, I think it's just another source of leads and revenue for you, right? So it's doing like all the above, because obviously that level of community games say, hey, I recommend this product or this company, or this service, is a result of your organization doing good work for a long period of time and like earning those stripes, right, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen overnight. The cold outbound, the cool thing is you can start that right now.
Yep.
You can start doing it as well. Obviously, the conversions are going to be lower because it's a different type of lead source, and then you're not getting like, hey, I'm the CEO here. I recommend this, but it doesn't mean it's dead by any means.
It's like ABM, right? You're surrounding this prospect. I mean, I look at like the 100%. Last few things that we've purchased, Dale, have all been based off of someone saying, "Hey, this is great. Go look at it." It hasn't been from someone 100%. Cold calling me.
100%. And I think if you're a really strategic founder, you're creating an omnipresence everywhere.
Absolutely.
So it's not just in their email and cold call to LinkedIn. You're doing the cold outbound. You're also in these your execs are in the channels as well. Maybe you're doing trade shows. Maybe you're on podcasts. But then also maybe you're doing retargeting ads as well. So now you're starting to see everyone Google ads, display network, YouTube, etc. So you're getting like hitting all these different angles depending where you are on the journey, and you're getting moved towards buying.
And I think in that space, going back to the spear like analogy, like now you know how big the spear is, how big the head. Like you have like a lot more data. Correct. Going back to like, okay, I can continue cold calling you or cold emailing you, or I can know that like this isn't something you're going to buy, like 100%. Or I need a bigger spear.
That's right, exactly right.
I like it.
What Marcus, what's like one little secret, one lesser known tactic, one little trick that's made what we call a surprising difference in your revenue outcomes?
One really simple secret. That's a good question, because I have many secrets. So
only one.
Share with you.
We want them to buy the book.
Well, I would say it's not necessarily get the book anyways. I wasn't necessarily a secret, but you can create an omni-channel presence for free by usually just using sweat equity, right? And that really has helped me quite a bit. And I'll give you a really, really. Can I keep going? Should I explain this?
Yeah. Let's roll.
Okay. I don't want to break your rules here. I don't want to break the rules here.
We break them all the time. It's all good. Right. We try to enforce them. It never happens.
Yeah. So I remember when I started my business, and I'm like, okay, I want to run as lean as possible, minimize any type of cash, keep my monthly burn super low because I'm a startup. I want to maximize it, right? So I'm like, okay, what can I leverage that's completely free that can give me instantaneous leverage, and that's social media, right? So for example, I chose LinkedIn to begin with because my audience is already on there. Now, what I started doing was, number one, I started posting content. That's kind of what most people start doing. They start posting content. So I started posting content, and that was obviously very, very easy. But I was also very intentional with how to become omnipresent. So it wasn't just me posting content, but what I'd also do is spend about an hour commenting on 25 different people who had the same audience I wanted to borrow from onto their posts. So I knew I could spend my eyeballs from there. Now, from there, what would happen was people would like and comment, and I would get more connection requests. As I got connection requests, I would open it up. I sent them a personalized video message. This is early on. Every single person that was in my ICP, personal video message. So what started happening, they would see me now in their inbox. They'd see me on other people's threads. right? They would see our other people's posts. They would see my own content, right? And then from there, I started expanding out a little more, get a little more advanced, and I started to get my way onto major podcasts. So now I'm borrowing their traffic as well. So now I'm sort of I'm in their Spotify now, right? If they put the video on YouTube, now I'm on YouTube, etc. Right? Now
you got YouTube Shorts,
exactly. And then it start compounding over time. What ends up happening is now my name is starting to rank higher in SEO. And now when you Google me, it starts showing higher. So this is a very subtle strategy. It's not showing everywhere. Now, as I started to get more advanced over time, I'm like, interesting. What else can I do? That's also a very good way to become omnipresent. I'm like, interesting. I could put a Facebook pixel onto my website, hit certain pages, and now when they go off platform, I can hit them with all those ads, these retargeting ads on Instagram and Facebook, and also Google ads. I did that as well. So her pennies on a dollar.
Right.
So now it's appealing for moving people in the funnel. Right. So now I become omnipresent. So then over time, I start stacking more and more and more. Right. So, okay, cool. Like, all right, cool. I got into the Forbes Council. So I'm posting more articles. So I get the SEO rankings from that. I'm on a lot of different podcasts. So over time, I start stacking over time. So now when someone searches my name, I have most of their search records, despite a very common last name, on the first page.
Yeah. So
you start becoming omnipresent and people start seeing you everywhere. Like, oh, I see you everywhere. I saw you on this person's podcast. Oh, I read your book. Or I saw you on, I started seeing all your Facebook stuff. I started seeing all your Instagram stuff, right? So that level of me basically being everywhere they are is a really powerful strategy, because at the end of the day, we all know when you first reach out to somebody, timing is half the battle, probably most of the battle, realistically, right?
Yep.
So now if I'm following them around everywhere on the internet, it becomes very, very powerful. And that's actually why I wrote the book. And when I wrote the book, now I follow them at their home as well, because now the book's on their desk. Yeah. Now the book's by their bed. So now I'm following in a whole different way in addition to all the things I just mentioned.
I love that. Omnipresence. Last question. Earlier in the show, you said that you were going to be operations leader. Tomorrow morning, you're grabbing a cup of coffee, some tea, whatever you drink in the morning. What's the first thing that you're doing?
First thing I would do, I would, if I didn't already have it set in place, I would set meetings with every single department head. All right, that's the first thing. From there, I would want to identify who are the locker room leaders who are not leaders, but they're in the field. The front line people, right? So, for example, if it's a sales leader, I want to talk to the BDRs and the sales reps. I want to talk to who the locker room leaders are, right? If it's CS, I want to talk to, I want to know people that I can trust, right? And my number one goal is I need to get a lay of the land from every single viewpoint. Really important, because what I don't want to do is come and build some great grand strategy and plan that's going to completely botch if I don't have buy-in from the team. And I want, number one, I need to define exactly what the problems are. Number two, then I can actually prioritize what the biggest levers I can pull to actually move things, or identify any type of red flags, burning fires I got to put out, or any issues. And then I can actually start building a plan together to actually implement this type of strategy for whatever it needs to be done to start moving the needle. Right? Because again, as we all know, not every problem is important, right? Or time sensitive. So we need to identify what the right ones are. And if also on top of that, find out who can you trust.
Really I love the locker room leader picture. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Got to have them. Because they'll help you when you implement Shade for any part of the organization. You know, the number one obstacle you have to run into is getting adoption from the people.
Yep, 100%.
So if I can't get them bought in, then I'm going to fail every initiative I'm going to run.
Absolutely.
If I get the locker room leaders bought into me first, get them sold on the way we're going to do things in a greater future, and get them involved in building the future out, then I'm going to have better implementation, better strategy implementation, more ideas, realistically, probably better ideas I'm going to have. And on top of that, we're going to run a better organization too.
I love that.
Incredible.
Love it.
Awesome. Marcus, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, for spending some time with us. For our listeners, where can people find you? What's the best way to get in touch with you, man?
My pleasure to be on here. Thank you guys. You were both gentlemen, right? I promise, right? So
he's never going to let this go.
You can cut that little clip and just have it on replay as a little gift. He's a gentleman. He's a gentleman. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Head to my website, bentleyconsulting.com. But I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Thanks, man.